4JStudios were in charge of developing Minecraft console between 2012 and 2019, and as part of this they made 9 official texture packs and 18 mashup packs inspired by other properties from Toy Story to Mario to Fallout. This means you can play a version of Minecraft where every texture is approved by Bethesda to officially look like Fallout. And you might be surprised to learn that even though 4J stopped being responsible for Minecraft console 5 years ago, the version where most of these copies were sold, they still update these packs to include a Fallout themed warden, copper block and bamboo raft. In fact, this is true for all of the 25 different packs which are available on Bedrock to this day, despite 6 major updates having come out in that time containing hundreds of unique items, blocks and mobs. This represents thousands of textures, and today I'll be looking at every single one before working out just how many there really are. And honestly, a single texture pack and a single update is already quite wild, because 1.14 alone, the Village and Pillage update, brought so many new textures which they had to design. I mean, looking at it right here, you can see that even though there's lots of variants of blocks or mob variants, which are kind of variants of other variants, you can see that they all still required a lot of work to be put into them, and the same is true for the Buzzy Bees update. I'm just kidding, this is 7 blocks in here, but the Never update has a ridiculous amount of work required here too. All of the Blackstone, all of the new biomes, and all of the blocks that support those biomes, and then the mobs that come with them as well. And then 1.17, the Caves and Cliffs update, part 1 and 2, come with a lot of wonderful things, including what I really like here, the copper, but you can see that there's lots of unique things which make the number of textures for a single texture pack absolutely wild. And although these were done over time, it is worth mentioning that they are still a substantial drain on the amount of time that an artist has to spend working on brand new things versus old things. Then with 1.20, we have the final update, which we currently have textures for, and you can see that it goes for bamboo and cherry, and something which I'd be excited to see in future texture packs, and indeed something to watch as we go through this video, all of these decorated pots, because this is how they look more or less in vanilla, but I'm curious to see how they look in other texture packs. So finishing up here, we have the armor trims, which is also another huge form of customization that I'm curious to watch as we go through future texture packs, because honestly, the second texture pack to release is also kind of a basic one, because whilst the plastic texture pack went for an incredibly artificial vibe, the natural texture pack did the exact opposite. And so we'll be covering this from the Never update onwards. This is where the vast majority of texture packs got their new content started from. The rest of them would have been technically released on the PlayStation in some form for most packs, but the Never update onwards is where this is brand new content exclusively for Bedrock. And so here is the Neverite gear. I think it looks pretty decent, but where I think the Never texture pack really starts to shine is when you get your hands to stuff like the respawn anchor and the target block, and indeed the new mobs. I think the Strider looks absolutely beautiful, or maybe the opposite of beautiful, but I think unbeautiful is a type of beautiful too. Speaking of beautiful, look at this too. Oh, look at the amethyst. Isn't there something wild going on there? And also, you can see that although the copper isn't necessarily my personal taste, I think it is a very good block regardless. And then you can also say that looking through here, we've got some nice different variations of things like axolotls. There are lots of effort put into these things, but where I would say that this starts to be absolutely wild is looking at 1.20, because, looking at the Warden, he is a little spookier. Look at his chest. Seriously, what is going on with this thing? It is an extra crazy, dangerous mob, but looking at 1.20, you can see that, oh yeah, bamboo looks great, and the same is true for cherry, but even wilder are these pots. This is where you start to realize that, yeah, these pots actually can be so much better. It's not just that it's vanilla style to be realistic or not realistic, it's that they can do some really, really nice designs if they have freedom with the texture, and that's precisely what they did. The same is also true to a lesser extent for the armor trims here, but I'm sure we'll find some better versions of that, and the camel will help me out a lot. Man, the camel looks very, very different, like a much more serious mob. I feel like he'd be determined to help you beat the Ender Dragon in this version. Speaking of defeating the Ender Dragon though, let's move into the next texture pack. And this next one is really interesting because when it released, it was called the Mass Effect Mashup Pack, something which is interesting if you did know it back then, because mashup packs were something exclusive to the console edition. They were something kind of made from thin air, where you would get yourself a texture pack, you would get yourself a skin pack, as well as a themed world specifically around that. I have some nostalgia about the Mass Effect themed world, even though it was probably the worst of the batch, but they were all themed around some property from another game. Mass Effect was the very first of these because the studio was very excited about being in Minecraft, and so around the same time as they released the first 2 texture packs, they also released this. However, interestingly, if you search Mass Effect Mashup Pack on the store, you won't find this, because instead it's now called the N7 Mashup Pack. This is because you can't reference the game name of a game which has a higher rating than yours in the USA, and so to reach compliance with that, Minecraft just makes the marketplace have this called the N7 Mashup Pack in every place. And so let's look through some of the textures. I almost want to start with the 1.14 stuff and the bizarre looking foxes H's and even the B's right here, but let's look through this one right now too. So Netherite armor looks entirely different to anything else you can imagine. As you can see, so too does the Blackstone. I really like this personally. I really like quite a few things here. You can imagine just how different the Nether would look given how wild and strange all of these mobs are, but the fact that they have updated and tried to work out what a, Mass Effect Strider would look out is something that I really do find quite charming. The same is true for Amethyst Geodes, and basically everything else in this texture pack fits that same theme of you will have a very different, very unique experience with everything from goats to candles to I think this is one of the most similar blocks actually, the frog lights. But if we zoom forwards just a little bit and go past the boats and the warden and all of the spawn eggs that are related, let's move into the most normal parts of this texture pack, which would have to be the brand new wood types. It looks almost like default. I would say I could even hazard a guess that it is default here until you start to get to things like this, where you can see that, oh, actually no, this is fully default, isn't it, actually? Interesting. I don't think they've updated this. I was like, oh no, this isn't default, so clearly they have changed some things, but very, very subtly. Did they just look at the textures that required the most effort and the rest they left how they were? Or are there some subtle changes here too that you're noticing with it? I would say when you look at the armor trims, you can see that something has been done, but it's near enough incomprehensible what exactly is going on there. And then the same is true for camels. They look very much like vanilla camels, and so yeah, most of what they changed in this update was actually just things that existed before. So armor trims obviously had some existence before this, and this one seems to change the color of the armor that it's actually on. Although I guess that's just silence, isn't it? So yeah, clearly you can see that the piglin head and the skulk sensor are the only things that are different. But interestingly, this doesn't have new textures, as best I can tell, post 1.19. What a weird place to stop. I bet there's no one downloading this pack, so I doubt this was needed. The success of the Mass Effect Mashup Pack was so great that almost immediately afterwards, a Skyrim Mashup Pack was made. At least, it was originally marketed as the Skyrim Mashup Pack. Because of weird Minecraft rules, it is now the Dragonborn Mashup Pack, and interestingly, it shares a lot in common with the Mass Effect Mashup Pack, but being a lot more accessible to a lot more people, because who doesn't love Skyrim, or that game with the Dragonborn as we might call it? And so look at the Netherite armor, don't you immediately just think, oh yeah, this is some stuff you want to get on you. Looking at some other blocks around here, they're a little bit more muted, which means you can at least understand what they are without having to do any deep digging, and stuff like the respawn anchor and the target block really stand out to me, but it's the mobs that really start to be horrifying. Minecraft is, the Skyrim edition is a world that has some nice little, ups and downs, but the texture pack really makes some things look a little bit fantasy, but when you get to the mobs, you can move into an entirely new world in a way that I'm not sure if people love or dislike, but I think the copper gradient is a great thing, so too are the new ores, and so too are most of the things they did in caves and cliffs, but I am very curious to see what happens with the warden, and so after we see the goat, the glow squid, and the axolotls, let's take a dive across time and see what happens over here. So I like the new mangrove wood, I like the new chest boats, I like this, although it's very fantasy and weird, and this is the warden. Honestly, less terrifying than his normal iteration. This might be, if I were to hazard a guess, this might be one of the least terrifying things I've ever seen. He looks like a friend that I'd like to make at the local pub. And you know what? Maybe that's what we should all try to do with the warden anyway. Have you considered buying him a drink rather than running away from him? Maybe that's all he really wants. And then as you can see, the other similarity of the Mass Effect Mashup Pack is the fact that once it reaches Trails and Tales, it doesn't have any updates yet. And so this might be the end of the line for a lot of their old packs. I do believe that there is a chance that at some point 4J says, yeah, if there's not enough sales happening per month or not enough people who bought the pack overall, then they will do this, and it also makes sense that they could be doing this for licensing reasons, so we'll have to see as we go forwards which texture packs do and don't do post 1.20 updates, because this is very bizarre to me to have a line drawn in the sand, and it means that if you want to experience bamboo or cherry blossoms, you have a weird mixture of old and new. Something that you'll really notice with Mass Effect more than this, though. Although, honestly, I guess we could argue the naturally generated world is one of the few parts of the Mass Effect Mashup Pack that actually looks somewhat normal, and you could also very much make the same argument that lots of structures look no amount normal whatsoever, and so what even is the point? Seriously, what is happening in this stronghold? I feel like I'm in a broken texture Minecraft world, but this is a real official texture pack put out by some of the people who developed Minecraft itself for many years. Otherwise, though, has to be said, lots of the other texture packs look great here. Like the Fantasy texture pack, which was the third one to release, and honestly, in my opinion, has some of the best strongholds, but I'm sure you're not in this video just to look at old content. Instead, you'd love to see everything from 1.16 onwards, and so let's show you the new textures they did for that. But seriously, one last look. Isn't this nice? And so here we are for the Never update, although I guess I could briefly mention that there are quite a few fun textures they made for this in previous updates. I really love zombie villagers as well as the fox. Even the bee is pretty great, although I would have to inform the bee that current state of attire is not acceptable in the current political climate, and if you could issue an apology soon, that'd be really great. But you know what else would be great? Looking at Neverite, which as you can see keeps the Neverite vibe while still being a little bit fun and quirky, and the same is true for Blackstone and also the Neverwoods, looking pretty decent, although the piglin snout banner pattern looks great as an item, but fine as a thing on there. I love this Never mushroom, the Never warp fungus is looking real good, and the same too is true for the doors. Every single door and a lot of other things are gold trimmed in this, and that is one of the ways they decided to make fantasy, and honestly, it kind of works. You know what else kind of works? These respawn anchors. Look how intricate this texture is. It's like a stained glass window behind a bat or something. Really nice stuff, and looking at the Never mobs, you can see the same is true there. I also really like the amethyst crystals and the copper, although, you know, not perfect for copper, but definitely looking pretty decent the way it slowly fades from one to the other. It's interesting how many ways you can have two textures and then the gradients in between them as it slowly goes between. Raw copper and raw iron look very odd as a block, but that's kind of true for vanilla, and the same is true for stalactites, stalagmites, axolotls, and to a much lesser extent, the candles. Then we've got the frog lights, which are inexplicably gold trimmed, like almost everything is, including the new chest boats, which are very beautiful. And then as we get to the warden, I have to say, this looks like it fits the Skyrim mashup pack more than it would fit here. He looks like he works for the CubeCraft server, based on that logo over there, and also it looks like he's wearing a bit too much chainmail for my liking, but that's cool, he looks pretty great. The alley also looks wonderful, and so too does... why is the recovery compass like this? I think they broke something in the texture for this. I think I just found a bug in this texture pack. But speaking of bugs that I found in texture packs, let's talk about the respawn eggs and then the Tales and Trails update, which interestingly has been updated for this. So far we've got 3 texture packs with the update and 2 mashup packs without, maybe starting to indicate which might be which. And the creeper here looks very... creeper-like, I guess you could say. And then we've got a very silly looking villager, so I kind of like these pots. I think this is a really solid update to something, and I love the way that they're still innovating with what a texture can be, even though they could realistically just slap a gold sniffer on it and call it a day, something I love to be able to say. But let's move in now to the SIP texture pack, or should I say the City texture pack, because that is right, this is one of the fun ones they made, which was designed for building kind of modernish buildings, and so you get a very modern texture pack with very modern Neverite. Look at the helmet, isn't it fun? But you also get quite a few fun variations of textures that don't realistically fit into modern buildings in any way you'd imagine, but do with this texture pack. Look how great the crimson wood doors look. Look how interesting the warp wood doors look. You could see these being used to make a skyscraper in a city. Look at the fun texture they have going on for most of this stuff. It's very delightful to see just what you could do if you take a set of textures and go an entirely different way with it. Look at the piglins. This is so ridiculous. The piglin brutes being kind of like the foremen versus the workmen kind of people, the laborers, I guess. It's very fascinating to me. Also, so are the piglins, who look like they're a piece of construction equipment, and same too for the striders. So moving into caves and cliffs, we also have some interesting blocks. I feel like this is slightly less charming overall, but there's a decent set of palettes going on right here. The axolotls, the glow squids, and the goat all look fairly normal, and so too do the frogs. Yep, this is what a frog is meant to look like. Meanwhile, looking at the mangrove wood and the chest boats, we get a very different vibe that hopefully gives you an idea of just how different some things are in this pack. The skulk sensor is very wild, and even wilder is the warden, who is a robot, although I love the alley with his helmet on too. There's some really beautiful decisions being made here. Speaking of beautiful decisions being made, we finally have 1.20, which does in fact have new textures and an absolutely beautiful doorway for cherry wood, and indeed, you can see same is true for the pots right here. Loving the new textures. And finally, with the sniffer, he's a bus, I think. And we also have the armor trims, which are looking pretty darn fine if you ask me. So, honestly, the city texture pack is definitely the most interesting looking so far. Will that trend continue? Let's find out with the next pack. which is the Candy texture pack. By the way, if you ever bought these on console edition, they are free on Bedrock. You do have to download them the first time you use them, and I'll be honest, this is my first time using the Candy texture pack in years, and I'll also be honest, I imagine if there's going to be a texture pack and not a mashup pack missing some 1.20 stuff, it would be this one. But it's not this one. It looks like it does have some new textures. But we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. Let's go back to the Buzzy Bees update, and indeed the Never update, and see how they made this look delicious. Well, a Neverite set being gingerbread, that is fairly logical. Then we've got Blackstone, and we've got the Neverwoods, all very edible and wonderful. Honestly, I like that they went green for Warpwood. It's an interesting piece of variety. I'm sure it makes the Never look just a little bit tastier. The same is true for the Piglins, who seem to be, they're not ice cream sandwiches, but maybe they are. They look like that weird type of wafer cookie that you can get. Speaking of wafer cookies, wow, 1.19 is looking delicious over here. Wow, I am loving the vibes. I want to eat all these axolotls, and especially this goat right here. And then we've got 1.20, which brings with it some new wood types. Oh wait, this is 1.19 right here, although Candy Horden. And then finally, we've got 1.20, which did in fact update to include the new woods. I am starting to get to a point now where I'm thinking the texture packs got 1.20 and the mashup packs didn't, but there is a really good data point to test this, and it'll be the first texture pack which they discontinued long before even the Buzzy Bees and the Village and Pillage update. So let's show you the Halo mashup pack. Sorry, wait. That would be a crime to say that inside of Minecraft, which clearly is only played by people who have never heard of Halo. Hearing about Halo is, of course, the first step of going on a mass shooting rampage, and so if you want to avoid that happening to you, make sure you call this the Master Chief Mashup Pack. I sure am glad when it comes to protecting children as a collective, we put the effort in the right places, which is to say exclusively inside of controlling what video games they play so that angry mothers don't have to look at it. But with that said, let's look at 1.14 and 1.15 for the Master Chief Mashup Pack, which interestingly, also this applies to the Super Mario Mashup Pack, interestingly, as you can see right here, it contains a bunch of textures that never would have been used in the Xbox version of the game, for which this used to be an exclusive mashup. Interestingly, the only reason I can play it here on PC Bedrock, or indeed on any version of Bedrock, is because of the fact that they, Xbox tried to make all of the mashup packs version neutral, and to set a good example, they made the Halo mashup pack, which was Xbox exclusive, available for all platforms, and I believe that you can still get it on maybe Nintendo and PlayStation, but this was not enjoyed very much at all by the other platforms, and so I guess we've got a, the one formerly exclusive texture pack, and let's talk about pandas in this, because I've never played Halo, but I don't know if the pandas look like this, or if there are pandas in that world at all. What I can say is this is one of the best texture packs in terms of, like, looking like an alien world, but still looking like it's got some, I feel like you can still understand most of these Minecraft features, even if some of them are a little bit more contrived than others. Like, seriously, what is this? The Ravager, I'm gonna have to guess? What the heck is that? It is crazy. The Wandering Trader Llama, on the other hand, looks delightful, and the villagers all look like fun space villagers. Zombie villagers are a little bit less so, and then we've got all of the other fun changes like bees, and moving into the Never update, we've got Neverite gear, which looks perfectly like a, I want to call it a Master Chief suit, but I know that's wrong, and you can see the Neverite sword is one of these, I love the way that it all comes apart. I think this is absolutely great to see, honestly, even the textures on the Blackstone, but yeah, looking forwards, we've got Crimson Wood, we've got Warped Wood. Warped Wood is very ugly. And we've also got all of the rest of the Never Update features looking just wonderful, if you ask me. 1.17 and 1.18 have a nice collection of blocks. Nothing really works space-wise here for me, but I think it's nice enough. The frog lights are really, really good, and so too is the rest of 1.19. But what about the Warden? Oh, yeah, that is an interesting way to texture the Warden. And finally, we've got 1.20, where they did decide to give it new textures. This is not default bamboo. Wait, this is cherry? If cherry looks like this, what the heck does bamboo look like? But this is not the default cherry wood, you'll be surprised to learn. This is bamboo. See, this, I'm so sure this is bamboo and that's cherry. Why is bamboo wood secretly bricks? I've got lots of questions, but this puts a hole in our theory about it being all of the mashup packs which stop receiving updates, because as you can see, we have a Halo-themed sniffer. What is that? Is he a truck or something? And we've got Halo-themed armor trims, which I actually kind of like. There's like a red versus blue vibe sort of going on here. I like it a lot. Speaking of things I like a lot, I would like to just very briefly mention, by the way, how many texture packs appear in my collection because of the fact that I bought them all in the console days. Actually, a small downside to that is if you ever want to find anything that you own, once you get past about 50, it becomes a nightmare. It's not alphabetically organized, I don't think. It's reverse alphabetically organized, which just isn't intuitive to anyone, as far as I can tell. But also, as well as being reverse alphabetical, there's some things that are out of that alphabetical order, so you can work it out. Yeah, I think it's, if you've got it downloaded and then reverse alphabetical, which is not a logical way to do it. But you know what is logical? The cartoon texture pack, which I love a lot, by the way. But we won't start on this end, although I have to say, I kind of want to. But instead, oh, and they've got another broken recovery compass texture. I am fascinated by what caused this to happen. Anyway, beginning from the beginning, or actually a little bit before the beginning, because I've never seen these villager textures. Wow, this is really, really cutesy, the way the cartoon texture pack has come through here, right here. But let's start with the Never update, the first one that you wouldn't have received if you bought this on console. You would just get this freely, just because you're playing on Bedrock, and they would update the pack for you, including all of these wonderful things. I think it's looking pretty decent so far. I really love Warpwood having these vines on them. Really feels like it'd fit the biome perfectly. The campfire has a very lovely trail of smoke, and the piglins look like pigs, which I kind of find charming. I also love the faces on the Strider. He looks so sad when he's not in lava, and a little too smug when he is. So really you want to leave him half in lava, half out is what I'd say. With the copper, again, the gradient is done so differently here. One of the most pleasing gradients, I might say, if I was to say so myself. And then we've got Deep Slate, we've got all of the rest of 1.17 and 18, some lovely looking blocks here. But then we have the frog lights. These look like traffic lights, almost. If this was just red instead, you'd be able to make some really fun things of it. But yeah, the cartoon texture pack, interestingly, does take a lot of very fun inspirations from a lot of things. But then we have, moving into 1.20, what I believe is no new textures. This obviously received a new texture, although I'm not 100% sure that it actually is. It looks like a Skulk it looks like they've taken the regular Skulk sensor and added a crystal to it. And so I think they discontinued this texture pack alongside the N7 or whatever it was called. And indeed, it looks as though they haven't updated it since, which is a little sad, but probably a little bit understandable. So yeah, there is no specific 1.20 content for the cartoon texture pack. But what about the festive mashup pack? Spoiler, the answer is no. There are a lot of great different textures for this pack, from 1.16 through to 1.17 and 18, and even up to the Warden, who is wearing a lovely Christmas jumper, but at some point they decided to stop updating it. This is something that'll be interesting to watch as we go through future texture packs, because I imagine it is the less popular ones. I mean, if we're being honest, I feel like the City texture pack has a lot more longevity to it than the festive mashup pack, because how many times a year do you need to play this texture pack, and more importantly, how many times a year do people feel they need to buy it? The answer is probably quite similar for that of Steampunk. But we'll find out for sure in a second. Yep, beautiful as some of these textures may be, I really love the Crimson Wood and the Nether mobs in general. They seem like a perfect fit for this pack. The same is true for the Copper. I think that is another interesting way of doing that blend, by the way. And indeed, every other mob up until the Warden. But that is the hard line that was drawn where they clearly decided no more updates for this. Oh, look at the alley too. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, and this texture pack also has a similar thing with the Recovery Compass. It looks as though whoever was doing the textures for it didn't necessarily know how it was supposed to work. And so we get this instead, something that is beyond fascinating to me. Anyway, as you can see, 1.20 has no updates for the Steampunk texture pack, and so presumably future ones will not too. But what about the Pattern texture pack? Honestly, this is one of my, I think the OG console texture packs were really, really great in some places, and I think this is one that I just never got down with. Why? What is the appeal of everything having weird patterns on it? Is this what you want from a Minecraft texture pack? Apparently a lot of people did, and I think it really works in quite a few places, but I also think there are places where I just have to say, what is going on here? And indeed, enough people said that although you can see the armor looks like it's got some special trims, none of these are in fact unique, and none of these blocks over here were updated in 1.20. This is something that might change as we move into the next mashup pack. It would be the Little Big Planet, but this was PlayStation exclusive, and so here's what it looks like on my PC. Okay, we're going to discover this time together with the Greek Mythology Mashup Pack. Interestingly, this released 3 weeks after the Little Big Planet, so that non-PlayStation players wouldn't feel like they missed out, and it's one of the most beautiful Mashup Pack worlds, but we're not here to comment on that world, we're here to comment on the textures, which do perfectly seem to fit it. I mean, just to take a second here, I really love this copper texture. I don't necessarily love the gradient, but I love the way they've done it, and the same is true for Amethyst. Being pink really seems to fit it, and so looking ahead to the Glow Squid, the and the goat, and indeed the mangrove. It's all looking very nice, but to the left of this point, what do you think happened? The answer is we have Greek mythology sniffer, Greek mythology cherrywood, and even, oh, this is so perfect. I hope that this is one of the perfect things for Greek mythology. Having decorated pots fits it so well. Look how great this looks. Wow. I love it. So we've also got hanging signs, the camel, the cherry boats, and all of this other stuff. But yeah, I am loving the look of what I see so far. And now I didn't even pay attention to this guy. He's looking around the wrong way, but look how terrifying he is on a really true level. Wow. Spooky. Also, he's got a beard. I feel like the ally shouldn't have a beard, but I'm glad he does anyway. I wrongly said that the recovery compass texture worked, by the way. It is, in fact, 4 compasses, all rolling around in my inventory at the same time. Will that be the case for the Halloween mashup pack, though? The answer is yes, apparently. So, the interesting thing about the Halloween mashup pack is it didn't originally release as a mashup pack, and although its official release is 2015, it released a few years before this as a skin pack, and then the next year as a texture pack, and then they decided, you know, let's just go for a full mashup pack, and that's what I'm going to be showing you right here. I am liking the kind of spooky Freddy-style Netherite armor. You would look very Halloween-y if you were to wear that, and indeed, the kind of creepy vibe that the Nether fits is really perfect for both the Nether and this texture pack. They really had a field day doing 1.16, it seems. Wow, look how good some of this stuff looks. I haven't seen these textures ever, but I'm really glad I get to look at them. And then we have stuff like hanging vines that look, is this hanging vines actually? Let's quickly confirm. Weeping vines, my bad, that look really, really decent too. I like a lot of what I'm seeing here, all the way up until the hoglins and the zoglins, but then we have the 1.17 and 1.18, which is a bit harder to truly make spooky, but I think they've done a solid enough job, especially with these. I think this is a really, really fun way to do that. Adding eyes to anything can make it just a little bit scarier if you make it a little bit ominous. The goat is also terrifying. I mean, a goat doesn't need to be that terrifying, but he is, which is great. And the frogs have very big eyes just to make you feel a bit weird when you look at them. Then looking over at the mangrove and looking over at the rest of 1.19, we've got some nice blocks. Don't question this. And then we've got the warden over here, who is looking more than... I guess he is meant to look like the devil, sort of, is the vibe we're going for. But then, interestingly enough, the Halloween mashup pack, despite being a once-a-year useful mashup pack, has a 1.20 update, including bamboo. I like bamboo, especially this door. This is a nice detail. And then also some cherry wood, which is very much not cherry, but I'll give it a pass. It looks like someone has a Halloween-themed house, which is perfect. Speaking of Halloween-themed, look at these pots, look at these signs, and then look at these trims. Wow, I love that he's covered in bones. Look at these trims right here. Oh, there is so much going on that it's hard to even work it out. But indeed, there are lots and lots of trims. We do have lots of different... It's worth mentioning that there are lots of different ways you can do armor trims, so we could have hundreds or thousands of these. The same is true for most things, but yeah, having a skeleton camel is definitely my favorite part of this. I want to go sit on the skeleton camel and enjoy the Halloween 1.20 update, one of the few, it seems, to get it. It's almost 50-50, but it's a little bit under right now. Will that improve as we move into the next mashup pack? It's a while till we go back to a texture pack, by the way. So the next mashup pack is the Chinese mythology. I mean, obviously the Super Mario mashup pack came out in the meantime, but this is Nintendo Switch exclusive and is an absolute nightmare to play because they insist on it not being available on realms or servers or any multiplayer games where any non-Switch devices are connected. But you know what? I did actually go ahead and get it. So here you go. Let's look at the Super Mario mashup pack and all of the textures. I have to say, this is always the most delightful. It is wild to me that Nintendo really did give permission to 4J to just like, yeah, Nintendo-ify anything you like. Take a look at the Warden real quick because that is one of the most insane textures. It's a Bowser-style replica, but the thing I really loved was the was what they did with the Sniffer. This is one of my favorite bizarre Super Mario monsters, so I love seeing him right here. And just in general, the number of odd references in here are really, really great. But that is enough for the Super Mario mashup pack. It's a pain to record on the Switch, and so let's head back to the Chinese mythology, which interestingly did debut after the Greek mythology. This was where 4J realized they didn't necessarily have to have a co-branded property, and that a lot of people would just like to see various cultures represented, and so this is what a Chinese Nether biome would look like. I guess I should say Chinese mythology is not to say it's the same as the modern-day Chinese state, but there is obviously a lot of, you know, I guess when you picture Greece, you picture modern, you picture old Greek buildings, and in the same way, a lot of people picture Chinese as being stuff like this, and so this is Chinese mythology Warden, Chinese mythology Recovery Compass, and Chinese mythology Tales and Trails does not exist either. So it's interesting they decided to update the Super Mario mashup pack, but not the Chinese mythology. It makes sense that more people would play the Super Mario one, but also no one is purchasing it. So either Nintendo is giving them money, or they just love doing it so much, and I like to imagine it's the second one. But you know what else I like to imagine? That's right, living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and I love the Bloatfly bee. I love so much about this, but let me show you the Fallout mashup, the Vault Tech Dweller mashup pack. This is one of the silliest renames in my opinion, but you know what else is silly? The fact that this is a texture pack they started in 2016, but yet still goes on to the modern age. I love the way they managed to have these new wood types represent builds that you'd love to make if you are recreating some of your favorite Fallout ones, and I think it's absolutely beautiful of them to continue to update and make new references, because this does take a lot of time to make new art for these key figures. It does take time to get approvals, but yet they do it even into the Caves and Cliffs update. Look at the slowly rusting copper that we have right here, but also take a look at things like the Deep Slay and the the axolotls and the very mutated goats. Absolutely loving those. But then 1.19 comes out, and I have to say my curiosity is the Warden. What does it look like? Okay, it's a Deathclaw, I'm pretty sure. And then also for some reason the alley has its brains exposed. So yeah, there are a lot of weird things happening until you get to the Tales and Trails, which they did decide to update. Thank God, because I think the resurgence in popularity of Fallout will probably mean that even though it's called the Vault Dweller mashup pack, there are lots of people who would love to check this one out. And indeed, you can see that carries over even into the pots. Using different colored pots is actually really clever. That makes me want to go and collect all the pots if you have this mashup, and using them for what I can only imagine is various different brands from the Fallout world is even smarter than that. Then we have the Sniffer. Weird looking sniffer. We have the armor trims, and then we have the camels, which I have to say, the camels are the oddest bit of all of this. The rest I'm like, yeah, this is incredible, but the camels make me say something else entirely. But you know what else I say? The mashup packs didn't stop here. Fallout was a great expansion into more video games, but they tried other types of properties, as you'll see when we go into the Adventure Time mashup. That's right, they really made one of these. I know Adventure Time is a very loved series, and honestly, I love the way the Nether pulls off on this. I think it's great. I also love the amethyst crystals, the copper, all of these notable things in my opinion look really wonderful, and they have continued updating this into 1.20. As you can see, some really nice little pots right here, as well as an intriguing warden, a a sniffer that I hope is a reference to something, because that is horrifying otherwise, and a bunch of armor trims which add cute little faces from the series. Very much like the Adventure Time mashup. It's not my favorite property in the world though, and they made a lot of these. Can we just take a second to appreciate how crazy it is that I've owned every single one of these texture packs so far? I was sure there'd be one that I was missing, but nope, Norse mythology time. Oh, I love the O in Norse mythology there. That was a tiny little detail. But yeah, Norse mythology has received quite a few updates to add very, very high-looking hoglins, or maybe just mythical, you could say, to add very detailed Neverwood textures, which are looking very good, to add things like these copper and these netherite tools, which are beyond fascinating in their own way. And indeed, you can see the extra detailed texture is really what they went for here, and I love these Norse boat chests. They really, I think the boats were great in general, but adding a chest to them really does seem to fit, and so as a result, they have decided to update this into 1.20 and beyond. Oh, this is a weird treant with a spooky head. But yeah, we've got over here a bunch of fun, inspired pots, as well as a camel, as well as, of course, lots of armor trims. Although I couldn't tell you for sure that the armor trims look any different to each other. But, that's just my personal preference. I like looking at these boats anyway, and hopefully you do too. Look at the raft. It doesn't have the start on the back. It's silly, but I guess honestly fits in this texture pack way more than in vanilla. So give some credit for that, I guess. But let's also give credit for the next mashup pack. Egyptian mythology is the largest download I've had to do so far, but I am curious as to what it will look like. Oh yeah, that's a nice logo too. So Egyptian mythology brings us back into the days. Oh wow, gotta say, got some immediate good vibes about this one. I'm loving the slight details that you get on things like the chiseled Nether bricks right here. It's a cute detail, one that I really appreciate. Netherite tools looking fine. Same with the entire set. You look like an Egyptian when you wear it. That's kind of nice. And as we move forwards, it's clear to see that although there is a very fascinating design for the Warden, that this wasn't enough to encourage enough people to buy it for them to update it post 1.20, because the Egyptian mythology mashup pack has no unique textures, which is a shame. They would have had some of the coolest pots, but I digress. Something else I'd love to digress into is Pirates of the Caribbean, where, as you can see, everything is piratey themed. In my mind, I always thought this would be far too similar to the Norse mythology, but if you actually look at the packs side by side, they are vastly different in every way besides having overly large boats. Look at these things. I think when you look at a boat texture from this, you think about just how great Minecraft really could make some boats if they wanted to. If we have a raft now, surely we can have boats like this in Minecraft, but yeah, we also have a very armadillo or maybe hippopotamus looking sniffer. It's crazy how much of a different mob it looks like. The Warden very much looks like, your boy Frankenstein, but he's grown into he's grown into a bit of a spooky creature that fires things out of his chest repeatedly at the ally. Fun fact, I don't think that a Warden can kill an ally. I think it just heals so fast that it's never going to work. Speaking of so fast, here is a glow squid, here are the wood sets, and here is the post 1.20 update, where as you can see, skull and bones and all sorts of other fun piratey things. I like that they've updated this. I'm surprised that they have, but I am pleasantly surprised, I guess I should say, which is a good thing, unlike with the Nightmare Before Christmas. I'm just going to call it now. There's no way they've updated that, right? I loved the Nightmare Before Christmas when I was a child, but honestly, I never thought it was that appealing to come back to, and whenever I look at the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff, I'm like, why did I find this interesting? I do think the copper is really well done here. I think that when you look at the Netherite man, he's very lovely looking, and indeed, there's a lots of interesting mob designs that have to be praised. Oh, look at the sniffer right here. It looks like they did decide to update this, and so you get some brand new pots, some brand new camels, and some brand new armor trims, which look like some of the most intriguingly unique armor trims I've seen so far. And so I would guess that either this did sell better than I expected, or that they are actually, they have a minimum number of years of updates, and so that is at least 6, because this came out in 2018. It was one of the last things to release during the console edition era, but there was one last texture pack that released during this time too. This is the super cute texture pack, and oh, it is super cute, wouldn't you say? I want to take just a little glance through the past, because I haven't seen it since before 1.14. This is one of the texture packs that just really lured me in as saying, yeah, Minecraft tried 8 very different things with the other texture packs, but this one did something so simple, but also so charming. I am not someone who necessarily thinks that everything should be cute, especially not unemployed zombie villagers, but I am someone who got a real kick out of this texture pack, and every time I see a new texture in it, I'm like, ah, they managed to make that work. I think it is a surprising amount of work to make things that are cute, especially when you're working with existing textures. So Nether wood that makes a heart door. I love that idea. Or Nether mushrooms that look like this. He looks a little more sad than cute, honestly, but it's fine. Looking around all of these textures, you can see they have one thing in common, and it is some really, really, really heartfelt, really warming design. It's not how I would ever choose to play Minecraft on a long-term basis, but if you wanted to just give yourself a smile for the day, the super cute texture pack was great for that. And based on our previous theory, after the wild update, I doubt it's been discontinued, although mangrove wood also has heart doors. So here are the new chest boats, here is the frog, and here is the Warden. He's a giant teddy bear. Oh, look what a cuddly teddy bear he is. He just wants to hug me so bad. But there is also brand new textures post 1.20, like this star door for bamboo, and for cherry, it's got to be a heart, right? There's no way it's not for a pink door. So yeah, as you can see, there are lots of new textures, including very cute pots to collect with a sniffer on it. Oh, that is great, isn't it? And also some, here is the sniffer himself, and here are the armor trims, which all look kind of wonderful, and here's the camel, with a little heart on his back, because why not? So, this is the super cute texture pack, the last texture pack that 4J released, and indeed, it is likely to be the last one they ever release, but there were a couple of other mashup packs after this point. One of these was Steven Universe, which for some reason, I remember spending so long trying to get excited about it, like, because I never heard of the property, and it felt like it was a kid's show, but I watched a lot of Steven Universe and just, it never really fit me. But weirdly enough, I do not have that file anymore. I don't know where it is, but I paid for it and it is not in my possession. I don't know why that is, actually. My best guess is that they released it on the PlayStation, and so I have it in my PlayStation account, but not my Xbox. But as you can see, this is in fact something they did. And also, as you can see from around here, there are lots of skins, there's lots of textures, and they presumably would have updated this because of how new it is. But again, I mean, I would love to join the 33,000 other people who have bought it, but instead I'll join the 36,000 other people who have the Toy Story mashup. Let's download it, let's put it on our world, and let's see what this is about. So the interesting thing about this mashup pack is it was made long after it was clear that there would be no console edition, and so in my opinion this was 4J testing the water as to whether they could make mashup packs and texture packs outside of actually making Minecraft itself, effectively becoming marketplace partners instead of Minecraft developers. There were, as best I can understand, all sorts of offers regarding other things that 4J could do, but this was a moment where we as the community were most curious, and so it's fun to see what they did with some of these textures. But let's take a look at all of them, starting with the Never update. As you can see, it's a very purple, beautiful looking set of gear. Then we've got, moving a little further along, a fire extinguisher? It's all like a medicine bottle? What is this meant to be? I can't even work out from context what this was, so just gonna... a crimson fungus. Weird. That is not what I imagine crimson fungus looking like. Crimson wood, on the other hand, looks kind of nice, and the same is true for warped wood. Very, very different to how you'd expect. I love the pencils, though. You could use that for some fun designs. Honestly, they gave a lot of blocks that you could make some fun things out of if you wanted to, and also some very intriguing-looking mobs. Oh, yeah. What am I looking at over here? Then, as we move into the Caves and Cliffs update, we get a very nice Toy Story themed vibe on axolotls, glow squid, and goats. And then as we move into 1.19, the mangrove wood, the new chest boats come in. And honestly, this is good. Oh, so wow, he looks mostly like the... If it reminds me of anything, it reminds me weirdly enough of the Bowser one. But yeah, as much as I love a lot of what I'm seeing here, also the recovery compass works. Wow, look at that. It's a very cute recovery compass too. But there's a lot of what I'm liking that I'm seeing right here, but also quite a few things that give me some real curiosity. This wasn't... I like Toy Story, I like the Toy Story world. In my opinion, though, I would rarely want to play as Toy Story, around in a Toy Story world, even after looking at the world, in a way that I feel like isn't true for Skyrim or for Fallout or for, indeed Halo even, you could argue. And so as much as I love looking at the sniffer that's actually a bus, with a silly little design, or the flower that's actually a teacup, I would have to say that this is a sad point in the console, in the 4JStudios texture pack era. But I also would like to say that even though a lot of people will look at this video and be like, isn't it a bummer that some of the texture packs haven't updated? This is actually the norm for texture packs and not the exception. If I am to load up basically any texture pack that I bought in the last 5 years, it probably won't be updated. This is pure BD Craft, one of Minecraft's most popular texture packs. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people have paid for this pack and downloaded it. However, there's a bit of a problem that Minecraft's, thousands of texture packs have, and that is that these are basically made on the basis of how many people will buy it when it comes out. Because there are so many of these, and the long-term sales are likely to be poor, it means that as new content comes out, like 1.20, it is very unlikely to be updated into that pack. Although Pure BD Craft, as you can see, has updated the Warden, which is kind of nice, it all fits into the comic book style, this is another pack that just said, yeah, every year they release new blocks, why are we going to bother updating the pack for them? Because some people will download the pack anyway, but mostly the majority of those downloads have already happened. One of the problems of moving from a first-party system, like 4J had, to a third-party system, where there are now tens of thousands, in terms of skin packs, there's tens of thousands of choices, but in terms of texture packs, there are hundreds of other choices that you have, is that not all of these choices are going to be maintained forever. While 4J was manning the console edition, they made sure every single time they released an update that all of their texture packs and mashup packs would work with it. But now that Minecraft, or Mojang you could say, or Microsoft, whoever you feel like labeling for this one, now that they've outsourced that to the community, they can't force every single texture pack to update every single time, and so it means that as Minecraft ages, as texture packs age, they slowly become less and less useful. This is something that we've spotted in this video with some of the 4J packs, but it is something that you'll notice with even some of the most popular, because it takes artists time and money to maintain each of these packs as updates go onwards, and so to expect them to do it for free forever is something that is a bit of a hard sell, especially when those artists move on to bigger better, or even just different things. This is a big struggle, and it's one that I don't know if there's an easy solution to, but it is one more opportunity to reminisce about the console edition, and it is one more opportunity for me to say that, you know what, I can finally explode this. No, I can't. You know, it is one more opportunity for me to say that the console era was one of the great ones of Minecraft. There are a lot of people who seem to agree with this now. There is a big wave of modern Minecraft nostalgia for the console edition era, and I want to say, while we're in this, that this is the week of 4JStudios, the birthday of Minecraft Xbox 360. It will be turning 12 years old, and I just want you all to know I plan on doing something special for it. Maybe you should plan on doing something too. Play some Xbox 360 Minecraft, or whatever first console you first played, or check out any of these texture packs that have been updated to 1.20, because it seems likely that they'll be updated past 1.21. That's my theory, at least. Just a Minecraft theory, I guess. Thank you very much for watching either way. I hope you enjoyed, and have a very good day. Goodbye. Hope I was recording. Oh, thank God, I was.